Namaskar and welcome to Diplomatic Dispatch, the show that brings you expert analysis of the major events in India's diplomatic calendar. I am your host, Vikas Swarup. On the 5th of August, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, arrived in India on a 4-day state visit. Bangladesh is a very important partner in India's Neighbourhood First and Act East policies. So, in today's episode, we will take a closer look at India's multifaceted ties with Bangladesh. India and Bangladesh are united by geography, history, and culture. India played a vital role in the liberation war of Bangladesh and was the first country to recognize it as it emerged as an independent nation in 1971 after ending 23 years of brutal exploitation by Pakistan. The memory of that shared struggle has forged a unique bond of friendship between the two countries. In the 5 decades since 1971, India and Bangladesh have continued to consolidate their political, economic, trade and cultural relations and have built a comprehensive institutional framework to promote bilateral cooperation. There has been a qualitative transformation in the relationship under the leadership of Prime Ministers Narendra Modi and Sheikh Hasina. Both sides have forged a remarkable understanding which has led to the successful resolution of some long-pending matters. The Maritime Boundary Arbitration in 2014 and the Land Boundary Agreement in 2015 ensured that sovereignty and territorial issues were removed from the list of lingering irritants. The Awami League government has given concrete support in checking the activities of Indian insurgent groups and terrorists on Bangladeshi soil. This is particularly important given that India shares a 4,100-kilometer long border with Bangladesh. The growing strategic consensus and trust between the two countries has also led to new initiatives in areas such as defense and security, trade and commerce, power and energy, transport and connectivity, science and technology, cyberspace and maritime affairs. Currently, there are more than 60 ongoing bilateral institutional mechanisms between India and Bangladesh. Bilateral trade has shown phenomenal growth over the last decade to cross $18 billion in 2021-22, with India's exports of $16.13 billion and imports from Bangladesh of $1.8 billion. Bangladesh is now India's biggest trade partner in South Asia, and India is the second biggest trade partner of Bangladesh after China and the biggest export destination in Asia. India has been making efforts to enhance transport and connectivity with Bangladesh and through Bangladesh with our northeast. Pre-COVID, there were 4 rail routes, 5 passenger bus services, and around 100 weekly flights between India and Bangladesh. Close to 27% of India's development assistance goes to Bangladesh. India has extended a total of $7.36 billion worth of lines of credit to Bangladesh, the biggest with any country. In areas such as power generation and transmission, rail and road transport, and infrastructure development, including economic zones. 88 high-impact community development projects in the areas of education, health, water, culture, urban development, disaster management, and community welfare have also been undertaken by India. People-to-people contacts between the two countries continue to grow. India issues more than 2 million visas annually to Bangladeshis, making Bangladesh India's biggest visa operation globally. Coming to the visit of Sheikh Hasina, the two sides signed 7 agreements covering diverse areas such as water sharing on the Kushiara River, training of Bangladeshi railway personnel and judicial officers in India, and cooperation in IT, science, space, and media. 5 projects were also announced, including unveiling of Unit 1 of the Maitri power plant and inauguration of Rupsha Bridge, which is a key part of the new railway line being built between Khulna and Mongla Port under India's lines of credit. The two prime ministers also discussed enhancing cooperation in sectors such as trade, connectivity, nuclear energy, counter-terrorism, climate change, and flood mitigation. learn more about India-Bangladesh ties, I now turn to two distinguished experts. Ambassador Mohammad Shahidul Haque is a veteran diplomat and academician who was the longest-serving Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh from 2013 to 2019. He is presently in India as the first occupant of the ICCR Bangabandhu chair at the University of Delhi. Ambassador Riva Ganguly Das served as India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh from 2019 to 2020 before being appointed as Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs. Earlier, she was Ambassador to Romania and Director General of the Indian Council of Cultural Relations. Thank you for being here and joining us in the studio. Let me start with you, Ambassador Das. How do you assess the visit of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from the political perspective?
Thank you for inviting me to this program. I think the political context of the visit is indeed very, very important. As we know that last year we celebrated several landmark events. The 50th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Bangladesh, 50 years of Bangladesh's liberation war, 100 years of Mujib's birth anniversary, which was Mujib Borsho, and 75 years of India's independence, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So, in a very unique gesture, Maitri Divas was celebrated between India and Bangladesh in 20 countries, which includes Dhaka and New Delhi. The friendship, it was really a celebration of a very unique relationship which is based on history, close cultural and civilizational ties, people-to-people contact. And, it was the fact that President of India as well as Prime Minister of India visited Bangladesh in the same year is really a visible manifestation of neighborhood first and, in the neighborhood first, Bangladesh first policy. During the COVID period, we were one of the first respondents to Bangladesh in terms of providing protective gear in the initial phases, doing training for Bangladeshi doctors as well as medical personnel. We in fact did a training in Bangla specifically, taking advantage of the commonality of the language. And the, vaccine, under Vaccine Maitri, the assistance, the way India stood by Bangladesh during a time of major global issues. As far as this visit is concerned, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's visit, she comes to India after 3 years. It's a very important visit. It's a state visit. We saw the ceremonial welcome she received yesterday and the talks she had with Prime Minister, both one-on-one as well as delegation level talks. I would, rather than go into details, I would like to sort of say that there are a cluster of issues which we can see which emerged from this visit. I would like to put our cooperation in security, political security issues. We know that since coming to power, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has removed insurgents from Bangladesh's soil, which has brought about peace in the northeast, which has brought about economic prosperity in the northeast. The two leaders, it seems, discussed these issues. Defense cooperation was discussed in greater detail. We have seen over the last few years, we've got an annual defense dialogue which we have with Bangladesh, which we have annually. We have a large number of exercises between our armed forces, training programs where officers from both sides visit each other's training institutions, border management and counter-terrorism and management of crime in the bordering areas. These were some of the important issues in this cluster. Energy is another cluster where I think it's very important developments have taken place. Bangladesh is already buying more than 1,000 megawatts of electricity from India, and we saw that the grid connectivity of Maitri Superpower Thermal Station was announced yesterday, and the Friendship Pipeline, which will bring high-speed diesel oil from Numaligarh to Parbatipur, which is one of the major North Bengal depots, that will also be finished very soon. It's a long 130-kilometer pipeline. And the IOCL is now authorized vendor for government procurement. I think that's also a very good development. Coming to water resources, we saw the meeting of the JRC after a gap of 12 years. The Kushiara River water sharing arrangement MOU which was signed is a very significant development. And even equally significant is the fact that India and Bangladesh are now talking on the other rivers. There are 54 rivers between us, and a few of the other important rivers like Dudh Kumar, Khowai, Gumti, then Muhuri. These are all, the discussions are going on these rivers. And besides water sharing, what we are discussing is exchange of flood data on real-time basis, embankment issues, and also pollution issues, which are all very important. Trade and connectivity is another cluster of issues where we can see with SEPA and trade increasing to the extent to which it has. This is again another area of great development. So I think all in all, it's a very complete visit, and we can take satisfaction in the fact that this is a really landmark visit of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to India.
Ambassador Haque, now trade and economic cooperation, as Ambassador Das mentioned, was a major element of your Prime Minister's visit. What more can be done to boost trade and investment, and what has been the progress on the proposal to have a comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the two countries?
Thank you very much. I'll only focus on the trade and trade areas. As we see, when I say we, that means the people of this region, and the market is integrated market. It has been integrated for centuries, and because of the history and all, it got disconnected. So what we are actually trying to sort of re-energize that integrated market, and we have been doing trade and investment and other things between the two countries for quite some time. It is increasingly, I think, gaining momentum in both sides. Although it's mostly in favor of India, but India being the big economy and the rest of it, it's also very natural as I see. Now the question is, the way we were doing trade, business and investment within two countries has, I think, reached to a level where with this particular structure and mechanism, we can't go to the second layer because of a lot of functional difficulties. And that's why in 2018, both the countries started talking that, should we put a more facilitating mechanism to facilitate trade. And we agreed, and both the countries had decided then to have a joint study. The joint study came out this year, and it has shown that if there is a more kind of a facilitating permanent structure, that will certainly boost up trade and benefit for both the sides. So now both the leaders have agreed that they will start negotiating a comprehensive partnership on economic issues. Now, in many ways, that's, I think, a game changer. It should have been done long time back. It hasn't been done. It has been done in Southeast Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, in Europe to start with, but we haven't. We are always somehow or other behind in these kinds of an initiative. But nevertheless, since we have already agreed, so this will look at trade in goods, trade in services, investment, visa regime, customs regime, and all comprehensive. And I hope it will sort of re-energize the market.
Ambassador Das, now the geographical locations of India and Bangladesh complement each other and present an opportunity for both to further develop their connectivity links. For India in particular, transit and transshipment across Bangladesh is important to boost the economy of India's northeast. So take us through some of the new initiatives that have been taken in the field of connectivity, beyond just road and rail.
Well, let me start with a World Bank study on connectivity which has been published recently, according to which Bangladesh's income can rise as much as 17%, India's as much as 8%, and Bangladesh's exports to India by as much as 29% if there is seamless connectivity in this region. And as we know that this also reflects on sub-regional connectivity, including Nepal and Bhutan. So there is, what the kind of projects we've taken up with Bangladesh and the way we work in partnership with Bangladesh, we are really looking at multimodal connectivity projects. Besides, let me start with the Inland Water Protocol of Trade and Transit, which was entered into way back in 1972, which basically revived the traditional water routes which have been used for centuries in this area for trade. And even during the COVID period, we added new ports of call, we added new routes on to the protocol, and now Tripura has a direct connectivity to the waterways of Bangladesh and through which to India. So from Daudkandi to Shonamura, this stretch was inaugurated during the COVID period. And we also realized that, moving goods through waterways is also, met the COVID health protocols, which were so strict at that point of time. The coming to ports, Chattogram Mongla port, we know the trial runs have been taking place. In fact, there was a trial run yesterday on Chattogram port, and once the necessary government regulations and notifications are issued, the whole of Northeast will have direct connectivity to a port, and Bangladesh will earn revenue from that. So that's another very exciting prospect. With the construction of the Feni Bridge and its inauguration earlier last year, Tripura also gets another 80-kilometer connectivity through from Sobrum town to Chattogram on the road stretch. Now coming to railways, we saw the the announcement yesterday of Rupsha Bridge on Khulna Mongla rail link, which is a new brand new rail link, and the Parbatipur Kaunia rail link, again a very important part of connectivity project. The Akhoda Agartala rail link will again a new project which will change the entire landscape. Besides this, all pre-1965 rail links are being, revived. So a lot of them are working, and there are now 3 passenger trains between India and Bangladesh. But the real exciting prospect is that of using this multimodal transportation to increase trade. And as I said, that figures show that trade can really jump if as and when all these are start working on the ground. And not to miss the road connectivity, there are several road projects under LOC which are again bringing about that very important connectivity of our Northeast to Bangladesh, and along with that upgradation of the the ICPs and the land custom stations all over the border.
Ambassador Haque, as has been mentioned, India and Bangladesh share 54 rivers, and water has often been a contentious issue. What kind of mechanisms have the two countries evolved for trans-boundary river management? So far, the countries have been approaching sort of a river by river approach in terms of sharing the water. And Ganges Treaty of 1996, which is likely to run out in 2026. So there has to be a second generation agreement on that. So that's there. But what we do with the rest of the rivers, and how do we make the river a resource for the development of people on both sides? Forget about other things. Also, how do we keep the rivers alive? Because there's a lot of pollution that takes place in the flow. So these are the areas that the two countries were discussing, and rightly so. Time has come, I think, where possibly we need more kind of a integrated, Bangladesh has been saying and India has agreed, basin-wide management. This is one of the largest basin, as Bay of Bengal is the largest in the world in terms of fresh water flow. And not only that, also in terms of silt. 25% of the global silt actually goes into the Bay of Bengal out of this system, Ganga, Brahmaputra and Meghna. So it has to be used for the betterment of the people. That's what I'm saying. Now, in terms of mechanism, I think we are still behind. I think there need to be more discussions, more collaborative approach has to be taken, not only in terms of sharing, but how do you use the water that's flowing out into the Bay of Bengal? I think that's something important. And after a long break, both parties has to be sort of questioned as to why it took 12 years to have a JRC, which was one of the first mechanisms that was set in 1972 by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman himself. Actually, Bangabandhu has termed the relationship. There's a few relationship between Bangladesh and the rest of the world where he actually set visions. She said it's a special relationship and it is eternal relationship, because of many factors that he saw during his own life. So, but that has not been as productive as it could have been. But there is now a realization, the Joint River Commission, that they will meet regularly, and not only in terms of sharing the water,
but also utilization of the water for both sides, and also pollution control. So the climate change and the river system, the river bed, just I'll mention one resources, which is part of the rare earth material, which is called sand. The river bed sand is one of the rare earth material, and we know what global politics is currently being played with it. We have so many common rivers, and there's so many beds. We are not doing anything. All the sand is going into the Bay of Bengal to no one's benefit. That could be one new area where we could jointly excavate and use it for the people interest. Just to mention one. So there's a huge potential in that area also. Thank you.
Now, Ambassador Das, talking of rare earth, let me talk about Bangladesh's relations with China. Now, they have expanded quite rapidly in recent years. Bangladesh was one of the first countries to join the Belt and Road Initiative. Then during the 2016 visit of President Xi Jinping to Bangladesh, Beijing offered a stunning $24 billion economic package, which became Dhaka's biggest foreign credit line and raised the ties to the level of a strategic partnership. Should India be worried about China's growing influence in Bangladesh?
Let me start with what Ambassador Shahidul Haque just said, that Bongo Bandhu paid special attention to our relationship, and he said it is eternal and special. So I don't think India's relation with Bangladesh can be compared to relations between any two other countries, because our relations, independent Bangladesh's relation, is based on a shared history of our liberation war, which is a very unique bond that we share with each other. And this is something we sometimes call ourselves blood brothers also. So this is a very unique relationship, and I think blood brothers and sisters. So we don't really have to, it cannot be compared with any other country. Coming to the figure that you mentioned, 24 billion, a lot of 2016 visit of Xi Jinping to Bangladesh was very significant, and these 24 billion is often a figure often quoted. But as far as we know, that probably only about 4 billion actual disbursement has been made. There is a commitment of about 10 billion of project. Recently, Bangladesh's finance minister, Mustafa Lotus Kamal, gave an interview to Financial Times London, where he said that developing countries should think twice before taking loans under Chinese Belt and Road Initiative.
Ambassador Haque, now since 2017, Bangladesh has hosted nearly 1.1 million Rohingya refugees in crowded camps that pose increasing challenges, security challenges. What has India done to help Bangladesh bear this burden, and how do you see the prospects of these people's eventual return to Myanmar?
Good. No, thank you very much. In fact, that reminds me that I was there in the week preceding the flow in 2017 August in that particular area, and standing on the top of the hill and seeing how people are desperately crossing the border. So naturally, it was a huge challenge for Bangladesh and the people of Bangladesh, of that particular region, to host them. It wasn't a very easy undertaking for the government. But looking at the humanitarian aspects and looking at our own history, our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina reminded us that, look, we were in a similar situation in 1971. Had they not hosted us, where you all would have been now. So that sort of brings in a very humanitarian aspects of our policy, and we have hosted, and then eventually we also went into a multi-pronged policy, both to the International Court of Justice, the UN, to the bilaterals, and taking care of them. So it's pretty good. And in this, we always wanted India to be with us. I remember meeting the then Foreign Secretary in Kathmandu in 2014 and briefing much before the exodus of the danger that it poses. For multiple reasons, before I come to the Indian support, that's an area where three countries meet: Mizoram of India, Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar, and northern Rakhine of Myanmar. So that has always been a very critical geostrategic location from the Imphal theatre between the Japanese and the British Army then. So it has always been a very volatile area also, and also because of the smuggling and all kinds of things, the British then decided to put an additional superintendent of police in Cox's Bazar. So it has a history to be volatile. So looking at that, I think the India and Bangladesh both needs to closer collaboration. Our expectation is, India has always stood by during a difficult time, the most difficult time of our life. And I was a young kid, I remember that.
Ambassador Das, it is noteworthy that the national anthems of both India and Bangladesh were written by the great Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore. How does culture provide a shared frame of reference for the two countries?
I think it's a huge frame of reference which has not been leveraged fully. I really feel we share history, we share culture. There's so much that we share, much of our music, and not to speak of Bollywood, where, I met so many people in Dhaka who used to take a flight or train just to go and see first the opening of a famous first show on a Friday to a neighboring city. So that's a huge potential, but I think but there are some things that policymakers really need to look at. One is, of course, tourism needs to be promoted. Bangladesh, I must say, has preserved a lot of heritage property which belong to icons of India, like Suchitra Sen's house, then poet Jibanananda Das's house in Borishal, then Tagore's various properties, the Shahjadpur and in Potishore, and in fact his in-laws' house is beautifully protected. So I'm sure people would like to go. So that's one part which can be done. A cruise service started from Dhaka to Kolkata, and which was a luxury liner, and through the Sundarbans, which I think now that we are slightly free from COVID, which should be revived, and more liners should join there. A lot of Bangladeshis go to Sikkim, of course, the closest that they can go to see snow. But it's very sad that Bangladeshi Bengali books are not available freely in India. We need to look at these things. There needs to be more joint production of theatre, more musicals, more exchange of people, more exchange of students.
And I'm sure the creation of the Bangabandhu chair will also help promote more academic cooperation between India and Bangladesh. Ambassador Haque, now Bangladesh will graduate out of its least developed countries LDC status by 2026. Bangladesh's socio-economic performance under Sheikh Hasina has been lauded globally. Just 15 years ago, in 2007, the per capita income of Bangladesh was half that of India. And in 2020, you surpassed India. So how did you do it?
Thank you very much. I think Bengalis have an inherent kind of a strength to survive in a very odd situation. I remember in 1971, after we got liberated, I come from a fairly modest, affluent society. And I was in Rajbari in those days, Faridpur, which is one of the districts. We had difficulties getting a square meal on the table a day. So, not because of anything else, but there was nothing on the shelf. We lost 3 crops. So that was the beginning, what I'm saying. Our per capita income was $90. And there was nothing standing. It used to take about 24 hours and all kinds of transport from Rajbari to Dhaka, and which last time after the Padda Bridge, I crossed it in 2.5 hours. So that's the thing that has happened. So that's something. And also I think the leadership and his policy, I must say that we went, after assassination of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur, we went into a slump. We went into a huge turmoil. Not only in terms of external relationship, but also our internal dynamism and the economy and the politics. We thought we lost everything. So that set in. But with the return of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the dynamism and we often talk about development, but we forget that development is only possible when there is a right policy. Decision to reach out and link with the rest of the world, including India in a big way, and the stability that it offered over the last 12, 15 years has made this miracle possible.
And also women's empowerment.
Absolutely. No, sorry, I in the midst of all, I left it out. In terms of participation of our women in the labour market. Now we are also seeing that the service sector, the IT and the rest are also coming in. So there is multiple sectors that's coming in. Something else also has happened. I think Bangladesh is currently enjoying being in the hand of a new generation.
Well, on that happy note, we have to bring this discussion to a close. Thank you, Ambassador Riva Das and Ambassador Shahidul Haque, for sharing your thoughts with our viewers. The visit of Sheikh Hasina has shown that India's ties with Bangladesh rest on a strong foundation of mutual trust and respect for each other. As the two countries look towards the next 50 years of diplomatic ties, increased connectivity and cooperation will be the key to the faster economic development of the Bay of Bengal and to a peaceful, prosperous and progressive region. Thank you for watching Diplomatic Dispatch. Till we meet again next week, take care and goodbye.